Welcome to another episode of Tales from the Tables with your host, Rob Bradley.
Episode 2. Wow, here we go, eh?
I will never get tired of that intro. I could listen to that all day, every day.
Thanks, man.
Just saying.
Thank you. It's funny, when I listen to it, it just reminds me of my grandfather. I'm like, am I doing an impression of my grandfather?
I feel like I would like to wake up to an intro like that, but with my own name.
Yeah.
That'd be the wake-up call.
Welcome to Tuesday
Exactly.
with your host, Damien.
Yeah, right.
Rob, you can make a living just recording that for people.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think with Alexa, maybe you could have that done for you.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah, I'd love that shit. That'd be awesome. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us again for our second episode of Tales from the Tables.
Pleasure.
Yes.
Good to be here.
Good to have you guys. JC and James, my co-hosts, and of course our special guest, Damien. Hi, Damien. How you doing?
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast, Damien. It's great to have you with us. Damien is actually one of our professional dungeon masters based in the northeast of England in a small little town called Scunthorpe.
Correct. Yes. You've either heard of that name or you have no idea where it is in the country.
I'm the latter.
Yeah.
I've never heard of
Very
it.
small place in the grand scheme of things.
It sounds lovely. I'm picturing a cottage and removed, Cotswolds-esque. Yeah.
Scunthorpe's actually a really famous city in the northeast of England. It has one of the largest steelworks in the country. Isn't that right,
It's
Damien?
Steelworks, yeah. If you look at an aerial picture of Scunthorpe, it's sort of the town, and then the entire spine of the town is the steelworks. It's like half and half. It's a huge works. And that if it ever does go anywhere, it would be a catastrophic blow to the town.
Yeah.
I like that, though. The spine of the town makes me think of the town as very biomechanical for some reason. A steel spine.
Yes.
Yeah, right. It's cool. How are you, James? You good?
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, had a lovely, relaxing weekend. So
What'd you get up to?
mostly, I had a lovely trip to the London Aquarium, and to afternoon tea at the Savoy on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Combined with a cat cafe visit in between the two to
Cat cafe
really.
visit. This sounds like the sort of thing you might do with a girlfriend on a birthday.
It may have been related to a partner's birthday. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Oh. Well, did you guys have a nice time?
Amazing.
Yeah, it was lovely. The weather was great. The tube was a bit sweaty, but
Oh,
other than
God,
that,
yeah.
Muggy,
You know-
sweaty tube.
I don't miss that at all. I used to live in South London, and getting the tube on the Northern Line was like hell on earth. Every day going to work, just like I'd be in my shirt and my trousers, all dressed up, nice. I'd sit on the tube, and then I'd get into work like literally
Drenched. Yeah. Yep.
stinking, just like, oh God, it was just it's
All
so
the way
good.
through the jacket. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
always the
it's
best.
worst.
Ugh.
Yeah, just the worst. Or then on the way home, you get stuck in between some guy's armpit on the way back. You're just like, oh man, and then like some dude's been in his office sweating all day, and there you are, just like slammed right into that. You're like, oh,
yeah.
Yep.
so
I had
gross.
the problem where you're like up against the tube doors because of the round nature of them and because of how tall I am. I was hunched, sort of crooked, like a horrible hunchback for most of the journeys that I made.
At 6'2", I can relate, but thankfully I very rarely have to deal with anything like the tube, being a rural northerner.
Yeah.
Right, true. It's
Yeah.
open skies for you. I'm back in New York, which means we have the lovely MTA, which means it's slightly less tube-shaped, needless to say, but we still have the armpit problem all the time. As a matter of fact, I'm normally the armpit guy because I'm pretty tall myself. I'm also 6'2", so I'm hanging from the bars, and then there's somebody I'm just like, oh, come here, you've had a long day. Rest up against my breast. Yeah. Oh, enjoy this.
How is New York at the moment? Is it nice and sunny?
Also very muggy, believe it or not. But
really?
it's all right. We're hanging in there. The haze of a couple of weeks ago has officially gone. The lingering effects have not. So if my voice sounds a little bit croaky today, I apologize for that. That's still lingering effects of that weird haze. If for those of you listening at home who don't know, we had these wildfires up in basically the southern border of Canada that drifted down and made the atmosphere denser as the smoke passed. And thus we got the really bad, this sort of like yellowish, reddish haze, effectively, that covered all of New York and the tri-state area and a lot of that area. And people were taking pictures of it and we're like, hashtag no filter. It looks like sepia without a filter. And it was honestly, it was like walking into a set of, I don't know, Cyberpunk, 2077 or a Blade Runner 2049, because everything just looked like garbage. It was horrible. And you could taste it. You could actually taste and smell like the sulfites in the atmosphere. It was really bad.
That's pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So that stayed with us for only a few days, but everybody who was sick kind of got exacerbated by it, and everybody who wasn't sick started to feel like they were getting sick. So it was pretty gross.
Well, thank God people have got face masks knocking around for the past few years.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
they came
everyone
back out.
used them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yeah.
not as, see, that's the problem with New York. Not as many as you'd think. You were hoping for more, but New Yorkers can be really dumb and stubborn sometimes. I love my state. Don't get me wrong. Don't at me. Thanks for but yeah. But yeah, it was a mix. It was a mix. So we saw more masks out than we had been recently. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's yeah, for some reason we are just not sort of set up in the UK for this kind of heat at all. As soon as it gets up to like 20, it's like, everything's like my office, for example. My brother and I came in here over the weekend because he came to visit and came to show me my office. And he was like, oh my God, it's so hot. And it is literally so hot. And of course, doing the podcast, you can't have the windows open. You can't have your fans on.
Yep.
And I am literally, I'm wearing a t-shirt, I've got my shorts on. And I'm just like, okay, I'm pretty sweaty here.
Yeah. It's
ridiculous.
You very quickly learn that recording anything on a mic in a controlled environment over the summer in a non-central AC room is murder. I had to lock myself in a closet for almost an entire summer to record an audiobook, and I'm going to be honest, I was shirtless most of the time, usually in barely any shorts, and I was not as good looking as James shirtless. So it was not a pretty picture. But
can I still know the name of the audiobook?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, this is one of the coolest projects I think I've ever worked on, because it was an educational textbook, but not in a regular textbook form. It was told as a novel from the perspective of an individual a fantastic individual, sort of a fantasy individual who survived hundreds of years through like a curse that he had inherited from early Native Americans. And it's honestly very, very cool. It's actually a textbook. It's meant to be published or rather brought to classrooms and read in classrooms. And I was doing the audiobook version of it for those who obviously didn't have access to the funds to buy the pages and needed to take it home to listen to it on audiobook or whatever. But it was all told through this one character who kind of lives through the many different ages of the history of America up until the start of the 20th century and meets all these fantastic people. So it's called, I'm forgetting what it's actually called. I'll let you know when I remember it, but it is by Midgard Education Publishing, and it was a lot of fun to record because you had to be, I guess, like 30 different historical characters. I was like, what would Ben Franklin have sounded like? And what would Mark Twain have sounded like, and all this other stuff. And I had to do historical research into what people sounded like at the time. And then there was also a lot of it's a very sort of modern history book, so there was a lot of fresh takes on things like how Columbus was horrible and how the natives were oppressed and things like that. So there was a lot of Native American and NPCs, I'm calling them, a lot of characters that aren't necessarily Europeans. So that was a lot of fun to voice as well. Yeah. Anyway, sorry for going on and on about it. But
no,
it was a lot of fun.
That's cool. That's absolutely cool. So obviously, because of being a professional voice artist as you are, that obviously lends itself great to D&D as well, of course, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. At least I try.
That is why Ben
Depends on the
Franklin
day.
appears in every one of JC's games.
That's right. He's my recurring NPC. No, God. No, I made it worse for myself. I have a recurring NPC called Jenny. She's based on like the Jenny Greenteeth myth. But she's basically this hag-like person, but is always out to help the party, but asks weird favors of them. And she kind of is my only reality traveling NPC. So if I have a player in 2 different campaigns, she'll look, and obviously with 2 different characters, but she'll look at that character and be like, "Don't I know you from somewhere? I can't quite place my finger on it, but I think I do." Things like that.
That's pretty cool.
That's
Amazing,
pretty
really. But amazing you could do all those voices. Damien, have you done much work professionally as a voiceover artist?
Only really in this, not more professionally than playing D&D. I would love it, man. That'd be a dream come true. But yeah, I do like to throw voices and accents and things into my games.
Great.
Yeah, sound
great.
effects.
Well, I've had some fantastic feedback about you actually with regards to your voice work, which led me to believe that you'd had a bit more sort of work outside of Rolldark from doing it. But I believe Jan once sent me a really lovely email saying about how great your voices were in Descent to Avernus. He said you're an amazing voice artist.
Super great player. Had said similar things to me privately.
Is that Jan McManus?
Yes.
Yeah, I love Jan.
Yeah.
I had him for Rolldark Fest. He was great.
Yeah. Good guy.
So before we dive into the interview with Damien, got to do a bit of Rolldark housekeeping. Those listeners who have no idea what Rolldark is a community of role players and professional dungeon masters that run paid-for games of Dungeons & Dragons and other popular role-playing games. We have over 30 professional dungeon masters on our books covering the UK and the US, and over 150 active players and just over 350 Discord members. Currently, there are 19 active online games a week, some of which are currently looking for new players. And 2 new games, The Creeping Dread on the 16th of July and The Bandit King on the 30th of July, are also looking for new players. And if you are interested, you can find the links for those in the description below. As well as public games online that you, as a solo player, can join, make new friends and engulf yourself in the role-playing community, we also offer private hire games for you and your family and friends. From children's birthday parties to corporate let your hair down team bonding events, Rolldark's catered service has something for you. Our Discord is most certainly the beating heart of Rolldark, and we welcome anyone to join it. You don't need to be in one of our games to be a member of our community. An invitation link can also be found in the description below. Our Patreon launched last week, so if you'd like to show us some love in the form of regular cash-filled fairy drops, fill your boots. Starting from as low as £3.50 per month, you can give back to the Rolldark community and contribute to making our events the stuff of legend. As a thank you, there's a whole load perks for you to enjoy, from monthly Rolldark randoms, surprise dice sets sent directly to your door, to free tickets to online games and in-person events. You show us some love, and we'll give it back to you tenfold. Speaking of in-person events, we have the GM Academy coming up in July. We still have tickets for that. It will be held at the prestigious Oxford University Examination Halls on Friday the 28th of July, doors open at 9:15 a.m. Expect to learn all manner of Game Master tools, from acting and voice artistry to game prep and how to even spice up your games with a dash of horror. The day will have talks in the morning, and in the afternoon will be filled with workshops and gaming tables for you to enjoy and play. Then in November, we have the next Rolldark Fest. This all-day immersive roleplay event has you arrive cosplayed as your character, where you'll take part in a fully immersive story as you sit, roll dice, and enjoy the acted-out cutscenes from professional actors. The last one we did in April was a hoot and sold out in the first 3 months, so be sure to grab your ticket quickety-quick before this one sells out too. November 25th, Basketball Hall, Hertfordshire. Details in the description below. Now we have James with the Dungeon Digest.
Yes, so this week's tabletop RPG news. There's a lot. So Saturday the 24th was free RPG day. So there was a lot of new releases, or like sneak peeks releases and quick start guides to new games from some pretty big franchises. So there's an Avatar, The Last Airbender, which I'll come on to in a little bit.
I own that. I'm so excited to try it.
So they released, they released a quick start guide for that on Saturday.
The animation was excellent. The film, not so great.
What film?
We don't talk about the live action film.
There's no film.
No, exactly.
Yeah, right. The film was horrific.
And I like M. Night, but he did direct the film that doesn't exist. That's I'm getting that right.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure he's more than happy to pretend that didn't happen as well. But no, so there is an RPG that's being released called Heckin' Good Doggos that people are pretty buzzed about, which is a very, very slim 33-page RPG book that uses a deck of cards and just a handful of 6-sided dice. And yeah, you roleplay as a dog, getting up to Lassie-like adventures. Presumably, I've not had a chance to look through it yet, but everyone seems very positive about it. So yeah, the full game is on Drive-Thru RPG now as well. So that should be cool. Yeah, I can
Sounds like a
imagine
blast.
it'd be like Homeward Bound and stuff like that. That's great.
Air Bud.
Yeah.
I used to watch one years ago. It was on TV. It was on like during the day. What was it called? I remember the theme tune. It's
What
like,
did it sound like?
there's a voice that keeps on calling me. It's down the road. It's where I'll always be. At every stop I make a new friend. Oh, what's it called?
I don't.
Okay, well, it doesn't sound like Paw Patrol, so I feel
It's on the
like
tip of my tongue. It's like
The
the littlest. Oh, I can't remember.
although if you've got little
Hopefully,
ones,
hopefully somebody listening to this might know. If you do know, drop me an email, info@rolldark.co.uk. Let us know the name of that TV show. It's about a dog that used to go from like
We'll
family
get
to
a shout
family.
out on our next episode, and
Yeah,
an NPC
totally.
named
Rob out
after
his
the dog.
misery.
Totally.
Yeah.
Put me out of my misery. I'm literally going to be like laying in bed with my eyes wide open all night, be like, what the hell was the name of that damn TV show about that dog? Yeah,
Amazing.
that'd be me. Sorry, James, carry on.
No, yeah. So so the Avatar: The Last Airbender RPG was the next biggest one, which apparently did something crazy like $9.5 million in a Kickstarter to get it going. So
Really?
yeah,
Hey man,
Wow.
we're
It's a popular
we're
thing.
a good community.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not surprised, to be honest. It's pretty cool. Like the abilities of the Airbender. Like was it Airbender, Firebender? Then you've got like
Waterbender and Earthbender.
Waterbender and
And
Earthbender.
then
Yeah,
obviously the
yeah.
Avatar
Yeah,
can
yeah.
do all of them. Yep.
So sick.
No small amount of influence on some of the monk classes, I think, in D&D as well. that
Yeah.
can do
Yeah,
big
they tried
that.
with Way of the Four Elements, and it didn't quite make it. But they fixed it a little bit with something that they released in Tasha's, I think.
Yeah, but yeah, so they
Sorry,
released a
James.
quick start. They know that's fine. They released a quick start guide with some pre-generated characters as well, so it was very quick and easy to get into it. I don't know really enough about the lore to judge it, but I'm sure everyone who's backed the Kickstarter is probably super into it already. So
Oh yeah.
I imagine one of us will run it at some point here at Rolldark.
Yeah, I own it. I have a whole box set that actually one of my former players gifted me for Christmas. Shout out to Costas. Thanks, my man. So I have this whole set, and I have like the mat and the cards that go with it. I need to try it out. I just haven't had a chance to get a group.
Oh, so it's like
together.
a whole set. There's like stuff.
I got like this. Yeah, it was like a 25-pound box in the mail with all of this stuff in it,
Fantastic.
special dice for it and everything. So I need.
What
to,
a
I need to
great
give it a try.
gift.
Yeah,
I'm a
honestly,
sucker.
very
I'm a
generous.
sucker for boxes with stuff in. So
Yeah, me too, man.
Boxes,
Me too.
things.
just got so many Beadle and Grimm
Mm.
campaign things saved, and then I just longingly look at them and realize, oh no, I do need to eat this month, so I can't purchase any of those.
Yeah, exactly.
That Amazon grey like transit van might as well be Santa's sleigh. You know what I mean?
Yeah, seriously.
Coming on down the street, I'm like still at the door. I'm like, is he nearly here? Is he nearly here?
We definitely
I'm
won't
like,
talk
check
about the
in.
Amazon basket graveyard where things are added. Like, oh, that looks interesting. We'll add that to save to later.
Yeah, I do that.
Oh dear.
Love it. Love
I
it.
received a box today for all of you Warhammer fans. You'll know what it is.
Oh yeah, Leviathan.
They're made of beads of
pretty
Warhammer
cool.
use. Yeah. So other than that, there is. So they released the rules for Actung Cthulhu. So if you're in
nice.
more of like a pulp Cthulhu game, they released like a quick start guide for that. And my personal favorite, something that I really need to get onto, is Root, the role playing game. So Root is a board game.
You're kidding. They released a Root RPG. Oh my god! Of course they did.
Okay, so imagine for a moment. I have no idea what Root is.
Oh yeah.
So
Because I don't.
It's sort of like a uneven war strategy game with woodland critters. So there's different factions. There's cats, birds, mice, which is sort of the general wood, and then there is a faction where you just play as a raccoon who just goes around.
Just the one raccoon.
You can play as a
one raccoon. And you go around and your objectives are very different.
So it's deceptively cute looking. You look at it from afar and you're like, oh, look at this art. It's a game about woodland creatures. Look at all the little painted scenes, and it's got beautiful watercolors and whatnot. And then you buy it and you unfold it and you lay it out on the table and you're like, I need 4 hours to learn how these Game of Thrones-esque fucking factions all operate and feel about each other and how they're controlling the economy of this sector of the woodlands. It's so good.
It's a deceptively small box as well. You look at
it doesn't even look that big.
It's not that big. It's cute animals. This can't be too complicated a game. Then you're opening it and you start reading the faction rules for the Eerie, the bird faction, and you're like, okay, I'm going to need a drink and snacks. We're going to come back to this when I've got
and about 6 hours to learn and 6 hours to play.
Sounds a little bit like Watership Down. How that tricked me. I got tricked by that cartoon. I was like, oh, my grandma's like, oh look, there's a cartoon on about rabbits. Come on, boys, sit down and watch it. We're like, yeah, okay, we'll sit down and watch it, Granny. Sit down, start watching this cartoon about rabbits. We're like, okay. What are they talking about? Who's that guy? What's happened? He's dead. He's dead. Like, my God. I was like, what the hell is this? Oh God, I was traumatized.
They tricked a generation, I think.
Yes,
they
really
tricked
did.
us. They totally tricked us.
Between that and the Animals of Farthing Wood, absolutely traumatizing.
Oh, the Animals of Farthing Wood is.
Like by the end of the Animals of Farthing Wood, there was like one character who had survived from the start.
Jeez.
You're kidding.
What was with that generation trying to like traumatize children? What?
The realities of life. There you go. Through cartoons. It's tough out there. Here's a cartoon that shows you how tough it is. All these cute and lovely animals and stuff. It's like, oh God. Right.
No, I think to be fair, I think Root is a little bit more Secret of Nim-esque than Watership Down-esque. It's great. Anyway, I suppose I shouldn't be surprised by the fact that there is now an RPG for it.
Well, there's so many expansions for it. Eventually, they were going to like run out of those. Like, okay, they've added otters and hedgehogs or something, and God knows what else. So yeah, I think it might be otters, beavers, something like that. So yeah, the next logical step is to create an RPG where you, I don't know, play as a member of one of the factions and wander around.
Didn't they release? There was a Kickstarter project a while back that was very similar, by one of those major like YouTubers. I forget exactly what it was called, but I think it had the word wood in it as well. You guys never heard of this, where you could basically play like a raven folk, or you could play as
I do know the one you mean.
Creatures, right?
Yeah,
I know it had a big raven on the cover. It'll come to me, but
there's
that looked really interesting too. Yeah.
Anyway. It's gonna irritate me, the fact that I cannot remember it.
We're gonna need to hire a fact checker.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Can we get to this? Yeah. I know I've talked about it with other DMs as well. Yes, so they've for free as well the weekend, a load of one shots got released for some big RPGs. So there's a Taste of the Moon for Vampire the Masquerade. There was a Cobra Confusion for the G.I. Joe role-playing game.
There's a G.I. Joe role-playing game.
Well, G.I. Joe and Transformers role-playing game. There's a crossover G.I. Joe Transformers one. So that could be...
What? So you could be a G.I. Joe in Transformers land?
Yeah, Cobra and Decepticon combined.
Oh my God.
In this vein, I've been dying to get my hands on the Power Rangers role-playing game.
Oh man,
I heard that's a thing.
There's a Power Rangers one as well?
Yep.
What is going on?
I feel don't
tell me there's a He-Man. There's not a He-Man one, is there? There's no He-Man.
There's gotta be.
Yeah, I'm 99% sure there's a He-Man one.
Oh my God. I need to like start like, looking around for these things, because I'm clearly not. I'm just for some reason I'm just like embedded in D&D. I need to like pull myself away from D&D and go, okay, so what actual options are available to us? I've got Dune because I love Dune.
I've got Dune as well. Yeah.
Yeah, me
Not
too.
played it yet though. Not played it yet.
I've not played it yet. I need to run the intro adventure because I have found a lot of the rules very confusing in Dune.
It's the same rules as the Star Trek one, isn't it, Damien?
Basically, yeah, they've stripped out a lot of the combat. They treat combat as sort of like dealing with assets. So it's very, very stripped down and simple. Like you can kill a low-level NPC just by basically rolling a high number on a dice. There's no hit points or anything like that. It's just if you roll high, it's dead. So they treat it, that is exactly the same if you're fighting, for example, a rogue agent on Arrakeen versus moving an entire squadron of troops, Sardaukar troops, across a landscape of Arrakis. It plays the exact same way to have this kind of micro and macro view of everything. It's quite interesting. I've barely had chance to do anything with it myself, but I'm very keen to get in.
The only thing, my only criticism with it is that you have to build your own house or use one of. You can't. I don't think you can be like. Because I would love to be the emperor and have the Sardaukar troops and be like, yeah, I'm gonna be like, yeah, we're gonna take over. We're gonna go and like, actually like mess up poor Atreides shit and just like get in there. And, you know what I mean? Like really like bring Atreides down. Like they're just irritating, aren't they? Atreides. Just irritating do-gooders. And then like get the Harkonnens involved. Be like, come on. Or Harkonnens. I always pronounce it Harkonnens because that's what they call it in the original film. But
I feel like that just sounds better, Harkonnen.
Harkonnen sounds so much more cooler, doesn't it?
I think I'm Harkonnen, but then I say Sko, not Scon. So what do I know?
Sko, not Scon. Yeah, one of them here.
Yeah.
One of them.
The Yank will now exclude himself from the rest of this conversation.
Cool. Anything else to add, James?
Yeah. So the new Phandelver expansion has got a bit more. They've like released a proper detailed breakdown. Well, I say detailed, like a blurb for it with some extra information. So there is apparently, they've confirmed there is a bigger evil lurking underneath Phandelver. It's going to integrate into the main or the standard.
It has to do with the obelisks, right? That's the whole thing. Yeah.
These obelisks.
Yeah, we touched on that last week.
Cropping up, don't they? Eh?
Yeah.
Keep cropping
have you noticed the obelisks, Damon?
I have, yes. I've run Tomb of Annihilation to its completion with my home game.
It's out there at the front, right? In front of the real entrance.
Yeah, it is, yeah. First and last thing you see should you survive that tomb. And Icewind Dale, I'm running, of course. We'll probably talk a bit more about that shortly, but
we will.
I've noticed them. I've seen them around.
Yes. Well,
okay.
The only other thing I've got is that there has been a new D&D ad released in Japan where they have, because they are re-releasing, I believe, Phandelver and a couple of other books or adventures with a new art style, with this anime art style to the adventures with some
cool. All right, I like that.
So there's like a video trailer that's sort of like the start of an anime as an advert, and the artwork's great.
Yeah, but it is.
It looks
that
very
sounds cool. Okay.
So yes, they're doing. They've done a localized version of Dragons of Stormwreck starter set, and they're doing Phandelver is the next one. So yeah, because apparently D&D not huge in Japan as an RPG. Even Call of Cthulhu is bigger over there than the Dragons.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? I wonder why.
I noticed that they were trying to make a big marketing push last year. They released that trailer for D&D, and it was 5 minutes long or something like that, and it was pretty intense.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't surprise me they're trying to capture more of that market.
I'm honestly so surprised D&D isn't big in Japan.
Of all the franchises I would have imagined would be the most popular over there, that Cthulhu surprised me.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, it doesn't surprise me that much.
It doesn't surprise me either, because they've got a thing about big monsters, haven't they? They love tentacles as well.
I didn't say it.
The hand gesture was thankfully spared for the audio.
What hand gesture? You don't know.
There's some freaky perversion going on in Japan, isn't there? I've never been there. My brother's been. Have you guys been to Japan?
No.
I'm dying to go. I will. I'm making. That's my next big stop. I think.
My twin brother James, he when we were 16, well, actually no, I think we were younger actually. I think we were at 15. We were in the careers library at our school once, and he was obsessed with Japan. He always wanted to go, and he always wanted to do it. And there was a careers thing on the thing saying like, supply this like essay, and you could like go as an exchange student to Japan. And my brother applied for it. He got as far as going to London to have like the final interview, but didn't make it because he wasn't old enough. Because apparently it was for like people that were going into the sixth form. Fast forward 20 years later, he builds a company that is a film festival company all over the world, and he picks Tokyo as one of the locations, and has now been there several times over the last.
There you go. If they don't let you in one way, make your own way.
All his expectations of what it was going to be like were like nothing that he expected. He said he stepped foot off the plane. He had to look back at the plane to make sure it wasn't a spaceship. He was like, so where the hell am I?
That's so cool. I feel like I'm very immersed in a lot of Japanese culture a lot. I love anime, but I also do a Japanese game show as an improv show, 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a week here in New York. And we are going to be going to, we're already in Chicago, and we're going to be featured this year in Edinburgh Fringe. So that's going to be super exciting. So yeah, if you're liking this part of it and you find yourself listening up and you're going to Fringe, come check it out. I'll plug the show.
Do you have any more details? What's it called?
It's called Batsu, which means punishment or penalty in Japanese. And it's basically it's Whose Line Is It Anyway style improv comedy meets Japanese game show. So there's 4 warriors that participate, improvisers, and when they are participating in a number of improv games, and they do a bit of jokes as well, quick rounds of jokes. And if they're ever funny or they're not funny and they mess up, or for whatever reason they happen to not win that improv game, they get punished in usually ridiculous ways. A giant chicken will show up and crack an egg over their heads, or they'll have to eat sushi off of a really hairy guy. That style of game show comedy. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Definitely some tie-ins with RPGs and D&D in there somewhere, I'm sure, if you look hard enough.
So how often do you have sushi eaten off you, JC?
At least twice a week.
Wow.
But I'm also the guy doing the improv and sometimes having to eat the sushi. So yeah.
I have a story about that, but totally inappropriate for this.
Okay. All right. Well, after join us for the second recording.
I feel like
Undertales from the table.
Tales from under the table.
Yeah.
Tales from the Underdark. Sounds more like.
Yeah, brilliant. So JC, you have some updates from our community, right?
I do. So since this is in fact not Tales from Under the Table, but Tales from the Table, we have had some DMs tell us a little bit, Rolldark DMs, tell us a little bit about some fun things that have been going on in their games and in their world. For instance, this one comes from Alex Maud, an excellent GM, who's currently running a campaign called Ravnica, the Second Contingency. Those of you who are familiar with the Ravnica MTG setting, you'll know all about that. He says, this week, one of my players got arrested and is now being held indefinitely and has a completely new character he's going to bring in, but had a very cool moment of ripping out of his handcuffs and saying, "Your jewelry broke." Which, amazing. Great line. Well done, player. Another highlight from fairly recently includes, also from Alex Maud's game, a player getting her lower leg bitten off by a sharktopus, and the artificer fashioning a new limb for her from an oar and carving a fish onto it in honor of her aquatic nature. Very cool. We were talking about that last episode, weren't we? Yeah, imagine going to Australia and not getting here and getting a bite, but not from a shark.
Bonkers.
A sharktopus I'd accept is close enough to
we talked about both things. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, sharktopus. Yeah.
Got to watch out for them sharktopuses.
Crikey.
Anywho, we have a little bit more. Richard Mortimer shares this one. It's from his campaign, The Heart of Everything, which sounds really, really cool. The professor and her companions, Bella, Lord Landon, and Ash, embark on a mission to find Jinx, a tabaxi vendor who possesses a part of a magical seal. Ooh. Jinx is imprisoned, but is aided by Ash in escaping. In the jungle, a conflict between two Tabaxi tribes escalates due to Nagpa's interference, resulting in the release of a dangerous creature called the Tarask, which I think we're all pretty familiar with.
Yeah.
Our heroes arrive in time to help and receive the gratitude of the Tabaxi clan. While luring the Tarask back to its cave, they encounter Nagpa, who manages to escape. The Tabaxi shaman successfully seals the cave, and the professor now focuses on locating the remaining Nagpa. Very cool. This summary, however, glosses over the fact that the party had drawn on their historical knowledge of the Battle of Pelusium, where the Persians had taken advantage of cats being held as sacred by the Egyptians. So each Persian soldier was equipped with a cat, your standard issue army cat, giving the Egyptians no option but to surrender. As they initially approached the Tabaxi settlement, they had gone to great lengths to secure a live fish each. And when Richard says fish, it turns out in the 17th century, the Catholic Church declared beavers to be a type of fish. Okay. Well,
Cool.
Interesting submission.
Hell of a historical deep dive for
seriously. And also
Well,
a little bit more about the Catholic Church that I didn't know, but doesn't surprise me, I suppose. So on that note, I've got plenty of stories to share as well, but I do want to share some fun community updates out of my games. For instance, Roland will be joining the highly talented and exceptional Rolldark Game Master, who goes by the mysterious name of Face.
Ooh.
Roland joins The Unbroken, which is a game that has been going on for 3 years now. The players are currently at level 16, and in around 3 weeks from now, we'll be hitting level 17. That's
Wow.
assuming, of course, I think this obviously is from Face, but that's assuming, of course, that everything goes according to plan, according to Face's plans.
Exactly.
And from what I understand, Face's plans never go according to plan. So,
yeah, right.
Then there's one more. Richard joins the talented voice artist and master of role-playing games, Rolldark Game Master Mike Dack, with his highly praised and action-packed battle-oriented game, Only the Dead May Hunger.
Yeah, I've heard some good things about that game. Apparently, it's all very, very much battle-focused, which sounds pretty cool. They're defending a bastion on this island and stuff. It sounds pretty intense.
Nice. Apparently with undead, I take it, being a big thing.
Yeah, most likely.
It's impossible to say based on the name alone, though. We need more information.
Yeah. Only the Dead May Hunger. Hey, man, listen, we don't know. Maybe it's sharktopusses invading. All right,
Undead
just don't have enough
sharktopusses.
Undead sharktopusses.
Is it sharktopusses or is it sharktopie?
Sharktopusses. So it has to be, because I get into this debate all the time. It's about the etymology of the word octopus. It's not the same origins that you would add an I to pluralize. It is in fact SES as the plural. So when it's sort of kind of entered the common lexicon to say octopi, but that's only because that's technically a mistake and a lot of people do it.
Right.
In truth, the original etymology is octopuses. There you have it.
I like that you've heard the conversation enough
Gosh.
to be able to clarify that for people.
You'd be surprised how many times I talk about octopuses on a weekly basis. I don't know why. It might have something to do with the fact that we run Mind Flayer campaigns, but hey,
some kind of sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
I spent a lot of time with the aquarium this weekend going, oh, that does a horrible thing to its prey. I should steal that.
Were you assigning stat blocks as you were going around?
Yeah, just that looks very strong.
That was got an AC of 16.
You'd have to do like a stats in water, stats out of water type thing. I feel dexterity wise in water, huge. Out of water, very very low.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. So that's that, and I have to add my own little community update. A very fun little thing that happened over this weekend. I was running a game of Waterdeep Dragon Heist for some players, and early on in this campaign, we're not that far in. Obviously, the campaign is relatively short, but we're only playing on a monthly basis. So this happened already about half a year ago, but only about in the second or third. And very, very minor spoilers in case you want to tune out just for a minute here to Waterdeep Dragon Heist. So at one point, the party encountered a mind flayer. I swear to God, not all my stories are about mind flayers. It is actually built into the module. I didn't add it myself. And according to how it's written, the mind flayer sort of flees through a teleportation circle or a portal, but leaves behind an intellect devourer to sort of slow the party down so that he can escape.
Nice.
And as all parties do, rather than seeing an abominable creature of flesh, and for those of you who don't know what an intellect devourer is, it's basically a brain on puppy legs. It's very bizarre, and it has this horrid, it's deceptively simple looking. It does feature in the latest Dungeons and Dragons movie, starring Christopher Pine, but it has this horrid ability where it can reduce your intelligence, which is a callback to how old monsters used to work, in previous editions of D&D. They used to directly affect your ability scores. And then they can, in fact, magically consume your brain, gaining all of your knowledge, memories, and personality traits, etc., and teleport into your head and basically puppeteer you.
Oh,
and
cool.
So you might be talking to an intellect devourer and not know that it's actually an intellect devourer. So it's a really messed up creature, and it's a little experiment of the mind flayers. But the party, being the party, especially one character, looking at you, Theron, manages to roll a series of checks to try and convince this thing to be its friend. And I always let the dice tell the story if I can. Of course, I built a framework around it, but I was like, there's no way I'm going to make the DC very, very difficult. This is a guy who has nothing to do with abominations. He's not like a scholar. He doesn't know anything about them. He's just some rogue with an inkling that this might work out. And 2 nat 20s later, I'm realizing that they've already given him a name and are petting him and calling him Arnold, because we were messing around with Arnold voices. And we decided that because it can speak telepathically, when it does, his voice comes through as Arnold Schwarzenegger. So it's like, wow, Theron, thanks. This is great. I love being here and helping you guys. So they've been carting around with...
Quick disclaimer, that was JC doing it.
That is me. We did not actually hire Arnold to record.
No, that's how good JC is at his impressions. There you go. Just want to make sure you're all aware. That's how good he is.
Well, thank
sorry.
you. No. You're good. So yeah, now several sessions later, the shenanigans continue. They've been trying to read to it every day to try and help feed its intellect, because it gets hungry and wants to eat more humanoid brains. But instead, he's buying like children's books from the local bookstore and reading these books to try and feed its intellect hunger. And recently, this last episode, they get into this fight with this assassin who was sent from the guild that they had attacked, a sort of criminal underworld guild. And they're fighting this assassin in the streets, and the paladin, our half-orc paladin, picks up Arnold off of the ground, hucks it, yeets it over to the rooftop where the assassin was sort of sniping them from, and lets the intellect devourer sort of do its thing. So now they have this high-powered assassin with Arnold living inside her head, going around and helping them on their adventure. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake. Oh, now I've completely imbalanced the game. What am I going to do?
Does the assassin speak with the Arnold voice, or is it?
It does, yeah. So I didn't want it to just sort of adopt the assassin's voice. She was just a sort of run of the mill, like, oh, you will pay for the crimes that you've done against my Lord and Master Xanathar. And now it's a little bit of a combo of that when she speaks and of Arnold's actual voice. It's like, now you will pay for the crimes that you have committed against our Lord and Savior Xanathar. Wait, I don't give a crap about Xanathar. I'm with you guys. Let's do this. Yeah, very ridiculous.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so brilliant. Thanks, guys. That's my community update.
Wow, great stuff. So, yeah, as you obviously guys are listening are aware, we've got a very special guest with us today, Damien.
Yay!
Hello,
hey, Damien. So Damien's currently running 2 campaigns, 2 rather polarizing campaigns, I have to say.
Very different, yeah.
Icewind Dale and Descent into Avernus.
Yes.
You couldn't really get to, one's literally hot, the other one's literally freezing cold. But both from what I can imagine, I ran Descent into Avernus, probably about before the pandemic. But I only got we never went to hell. We were literally
I sat in on one of those sessions. That was a fun time.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
That was when you first joined us, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah, 2020. Yeah, that's right. And so the actuals we never got into hell, but from what I gathered, it was quite a dark place because everyone's lawful evil in it, aren't they?
Yep.
It can be, yeah. It's funny. It can be, as with all D&D, it can be a very dark story and a dark place with lots of moral ambiguity and evil deeds and grim characters and descriptions of acts of horror and violence. But just like anything, it's sprinkled with these little motes of humor and joy and light characters and things just to keep that balance.
Lulu.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, the elephant, isn't it? The little elephant.
So,
The
yeah.
holophone,
Yeah.
I guess we should say spoilers
Yeah.
for Descent into Avernus and Icewind Dale.
There's no cute little elephant in it. It was a joke.
But that's exactly it. You would never imagine that you look at the front cover of that book and read the description that such a character would exist in it. So they do a pretty good job, even before you start adding players who will naturally gravitate towards humor and absurdity, as we may have already heard with some of these community updates.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, it is a dark campaign, but it can be just as easily very joyful and hopeful. And if you balance that, that's where a lot of the fun comes from.
How far are you into it so far?
So they are in hell now. Sorry, guys. And they are.
It's in the title of the book. If they didn't know what they were getting into, that's on them.
It is. I think everybody goes into that book really hoping that they get that far because again, spoiler alert, it does not start there. So
no.
If you want to get to Avernus, you've got to stick with it a little bit. I suppose you could start there if you wanted to with your own reasons, but if you run it as book,
at like level 5, basically.
Yeah. If you run it as book, you're gonna be in Baldur's Gate for a little while. But we are. They've been in hell a little while. They're at the moment just dealing with a character named Haruman. It's their second encounter with Haruman, and that is an amusing tale, to be sure. They made somewhat of a mockery of, indeed, a very dark character, as I alluded to previously. They use some very clever spells and some wonderful abilities in role-playing to bring that character to their knees.
Whoa.
Oh, okay, cool.
Very, very cool stuff. So that's where we are. They are currently desperately trying to seek out some of Lulu's memories to lead them further on their quest to save a beleaguered city. I'll try and keep some spoilers out of the story, but yeah, they're trying to help a city. They're trying to find out through Lulu's memories where they can go to do that, and their current lead is Haruman. So that's where they are.
I love that you have this. Oh, I'm sorry, Rob. Go ahead.
No, go on.
I was gonna say I love that you have Haruman, who does in canon have this very tragic story and very well involved. And if you really know how to like pick at the strings of history and the backstory of the module, you can really make that character very deep and interesting. And I was so excited to do that, and I lost it so quickly, and it became just another character that they couldn't not help but make a little fun of, because when we were running it, I had joked that it sounded a lot like Saruman from the Two Towers and, obviously the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And I did a bit where Ian McKellen sort of calls out when he's on the mountain in Fellowship against Saruman. He goes, "It's Saruman!" But instead of doing Saruman, I was like, "It's Haruman!" And thus, anytime he appeared to them, all the players would go, "It's Haruman!" And I was like, God damn it. And then, of course, we would break down in laughter, and we never got too serious about him. But it is a fantastic character and a really good story behind him, too. Yeah.
Is this the first time
the main villain?
Is this the first time you've run the Descent into Avernus, Damien?
It is, yeah, it is the first time. I bought it immediately when it came out and read it straight through and was really eager to run it. And this was before joining Rolldark, and was flirting with the idea of having that be our second campaign. I have a home game that's approaching its 5th year now, which started with Tomb of Annihilation and has gone deep into homebrew territory since they finished that book.
Very cool.
They're in the Shadowfell right now and having a joyous time of it indeed. Shout out to my wife who plays that game with me and all my friends and players who are in that game with me. My sister and godparents to my child. Hello, everyone. I know you'll be listening.
5 years is
5 years.
That's dedication.
That's a long campaign.
How often do you guys play? How often do you guys play?
You've read my mind. Yeah, we've managed pretty well with weekly.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're level 15 now, and we've managed it pretty well weekly. We've done a really good job of doing that. And
nice. Are you hearing that, my players? Okay, 5 years of weekly play and they're only level 15. I need you to all stop complaining. All right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so we hit the pandemic right at the back end of that book. Anybody that knows that book will know that the tomb indeed plays a very big part in that story and is a very large chapter. And right as they were about to enter that tomb is when the pandemic hit. And we were like, hey, we've done this for so long, we can take a break for a week or two while this all... we head to the Winchester and this all smooths over. And of course, we didn't get very, very many weeks in before we were like, chances are this isn't going away. And that's when we started playing online. And for a long time, we had more online sessions in our list of games than we did in-person ones by the end of it.
Great.
And now we play hybrid. If schedules don't meet up, then we play online. That frees everybody up a little easier. And then when we can, we play in person.
Wow. How is that to manage, jumping between playing in person and playing online?
It's not too bad. It was a little tricky in the beginning, getting used to everything and getting used to cutting each other off and things online, because in person it's much easier to kind of freely bounce off of one another and kind of queue jump, as it were, into people's like role-playing sessions, where it's a little harder online with volume levels and the audio is a little muddier.
And
so
delays, exactly.
Tech issues. So it's been okay. We've managed pretty well. We always prefer to be in person, which is hardly a surprise, but yeah.
I'm trying to picture, say, if I'm in the middle of a dungeon and suddenly we're going to decide to have, an online session, then I have to recreate that dungeon in whatever VTT I'm using. Definitely not Foundry. And definitely Foundry. And then set up the walls and remember where the tokens were placed and make sure their character's health on their sheets in the online game is updated according to their sheets. It sounds like it's a lot of transitional work in that kind of scenario.
It would be, but I did start doing. I started with a little sort of browser-based one called Owlbear Rodeo.
I heard about this actually.
With that even before we went into online play, and everyone had their phones or tablets, and we actually used the maps that way. So they were kind of used to that already. I heard
it's actually quite good. I heard it's like Roll20 Light, effectively.
Yeah, way more simple in terms of options, and I believe there's a 2.0 releasing, which has got a little more meat on the bones.
Nice.
But so we were already using it, and so I just translated that directly onto the online, and so really I didn't have to do all that much extra work, thankfully.
Nice. Look at that.
Yeah.
Cool.
And with regards to doing, so I suppose because you're running 3 games a week, then aren't you? But the prep must be quite. Like, do you find that you're doing different types of prep for different types of game in terms of how you approach it? Because obviously Icewind Dale is very much horror focused, all about suspense. So that lends itself to one sort of form of writing, I suppose. And then Descent into Avernus is, again, is Descent into Avernus...
In your face horror and action, Mad Max.
Yeah, quite extreme. And then with your homebrew game, is it kind of like the mixture of the two, would you say, or is there something different?
Well, they're in the Shadowfell right now, as I mentioned, so it's horror all the way. They're in another dungeon now, deep in the Shadowfell, looking for a Skull Lord, and And
As you
I
do.
love Skull Lords. I know, Rob, you like Skull Lords. You mentioned
Yeah.
that once.
Love 'em.
I've had a little fun with this particular one, so enjoy that, guys. When you get there, it's going to be a little different. So yeah, that's a lot of horror too. So I'm doing quite a bit of horror. Harriman himself and where you find him and the location he's found in is also quite grim and horrific and really dark. So really, at the moment, all three are kind of balancing out in terms of theme and tone. Although Avernus, they do have access to their infernal war machines, so the Mad Max is real. That's a little more. That can be a little more action packed when they're aboard those vehicles.
Yeah, that is hard to. I found it when I was running Descent into Avernus. Even with all the awesome tools at your fingertips on a VTT, that's still hard to pull off unless you have a very willing to suspend disbelief group, because of the movement of the vehicles and a lot of it I think is atmosphere. You have to find the right track and the right sort of drum track and I had a Knowles on bikes, Knowles on spike bikes, and I sort of added backtracks of cackling hyenas in the background so that it was just like they're coming before they start chucking their spears that explode in your car and stuff like that.
We just had Knowles in Avernus. Sorry, not Avernus, Icewind Dale.
Cackling Chasm.
Yeah, indeed.
Nice.
Yeah. So I
did that not that long ago.
Researching the hyena sound effects and kind of going for that as well.
Oh, that's real good.
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah.
That immediately makes Knowles more frightening. Knowles are kind of a very famous D&D monster, but the minute you give them that cackle, it immediately makes them more frightening because there's something about that sound that's really primal, and it doesn't sound like any other animal, really.
Just sounds nasty.
Yeah,
sounds
really nasty and but intelligent as well. So
but almost like reveling, in whatever that they're doing. It's and because they are by canon creatures of slaughter, right? An invading orc army, for instance, you can expect to have some brutish savagery, but they follow basic tactics. You can surrender to them. They might take you prisoner. They might hold you for ransom. They follow certain codes of conduct. In my homebrew worlds, they're a very honor-based society. Gnolls don't have that, at least not in the canon. Gnolls are, they will, where they walk, they scourge the land. They will eat and reproduce and leave nothing behind but waste. It's nasty. Really cool as they move. So I've obviously never run like a Gnoll army kind of based campaign, but isolated incidents with Gnolls, if a scouting party or like the Cackling Chasm in Icewind Dale, I think is a great one. I just ran that. It's so funny, Damien. I just ran that like 2 weeks ago with my Icewind Dale group, which is a home group, and they we had this epic thing where they actually talked to some of the Gnolls, and what the story is there. They were trying to depose one of the leaders, and they started like just kicking the Gnolls into the chasm, but because they were so hungry because of the lack of food up in the freezing dales, they just started cannibalizing each other. So they left to the sounds of several dozen as like flesh is being rent apart and stuff. Ugh.
Yuck.
So cool.
Super cool. My players, they have, there's one player who is very, he's a fighter, but it could easily be a paladin. He has a very stern moral compass of his own making. And is very much of the mind of, if this thing is dangerous to 10 towns and the local populace, then it goes. And he's got that. It's an interesting one because not all of the players.
That's everything.
Not all of the players have that same moral compass, and it's always fun going into, like you alluded to the story of Cackling Chasm. I knew going into it that despite their attempts, or at least their own Gnollish attempts to sort of hint that, hey, things aren't good here, and if you're going to do something about it, we're not going to stop you. I knew that this one particular character would probably see red anyway, and so I was eagerly anticipating how that would go and whether anybody would pick up on the Gnolls' sort of plight, as it were, and show any kind of sympathy for them. But no, it did end in a pretty spectacular
Bloodbath.
slaughter. Yeah,
Great.
It's hard to find sympathy for them, to be fair.
it is. It's very hard. Yeah, it is very hard.
Even my normal go-to with anything is like, if I want to evoke sympathy, give it a child or have a child left behind. I told that Owlbear Cub story last time. Sounds like you've got a story.
To not talk too much on the subject, again, Icewind Dale and that very same character, there is, if anyone that's run it know, there is another type of dangerous animal out there in the Dale, a Yeti, and you can experience Yetis that have their own young in the game. And they did, and that was the very first sort of major moral conflict that the characters had, was how to deal with this one particular youngster, because they battled the parent, or one of them, and killed it, knowing they knew the young was there, and they did try their best to sort of bring the situation down, but it went south real quick. Then they had this whole, like a good portion of that session ended in a discussion of like, what do we do here? And that same character was like, look, it's going to grow up and slaughter people. We kill it. We end it now. And everyone else was kind of like, no, we can't. And it really did become this deep moral quandary that still crops up in the game from time to time, even though it was quite early on.
I wish my players had these deep moral quandaries. That way they wouldn't be adopting intellect devourers.
Yeah, right. It is interesting, isn't it, when you think about it? When you look at like society, look at the world, look at nature, in fact, and you look at like sharks and crocodiles and all these creatures that can eat humans. You know, we don't, in the real world, we're like, they're animals, you know? But in D&D, they're monsters.
Yeah.
Right.
They would just be labeled as monsters.
Yeah.
Effectively. Yep. You know, you can't, like, where does that sort of like, from, because obviously you got beasts and you got monsters in D&D. At what point does, like, because what gives a Yeti, what makes a Yeti evil if it's just eating what it needs to eat in order to survive? Just as a bear would.
What is more than its tag? Because it's labeled as a monstrosity instead of a beast. Does that necessarily mean it's non-negotiable? You know, is it purely a creature of chaos? Does it? And yeah, I think you hit on a really good point, because I have this quandary with my players, and I'm sure James and Damien, you guys do as well, all the time, with certain things that are expected to act one way, and I like to turn tropes on their heads and see what the players make of it. You know, classic fight, the owlbear, here we go. Oh, you didn't expect that it would have a cub. What do you do with this cub now? Do you let it just die in the wild? Do you think it might rear itself to become an avenging owlbear, or are you going to adopt it and turn it into a force of good? Or not necessarily, just a force of your pure chaos. The Wayfinders, my team players. Or I particularly like, and I do this quite a fair bit with fiends, I particularly like devils, because there's something very interesting to me in a little kernel of a story with devils that tells me these creatures exist because they're made that way. Devils don't have a choice. They follow a code because they're lawful evil rather than chaotic evil like demons, but they don't get to make good choices. They don't get to pick the better path. Sure, if you want an NPC devil that breaks the mold of that, of course you can have that, right? You can have a devil who's suddenly developed a conscience and has a soul or whatever, right? Very angel storyline in Buffy, if you will. But what I love about it is that my players unequivocally will come across a fiend. The majority of my players, not all of them, will come across a fiend and be like, "You foul creature of the earth, you will, or of the nine hells, you will die now." And then they turn it back on them and say, "Sure, but we're not actually doing anything of our own accord. We're just enabling mortals who want to make pacts with us." That's what's fascinating about devils, right? They really don't instigate much on their own. Sure, they try and tempt mortals into deals and often hold those mortals to the poor wording of their deals, but they're exploiting the greed, mostly, right? That's the principal one, but the greed and the base primal instincts of mortals, of humanoids. And I had this whole bit with spoilers for Descent into Avernus, but I have to talk about it. You know about Mahadi, the Rakshasa in that game. Fascinating. Yeah. Nice. I love that character. I had a tangent. I recorded a whole version of Prince Ali from Aladdin, but it was Mahadi.
I remember you sending that to us. In the
I can't take credit for the idea, but I didn't
brilliant.
find any good recordings of it that I liked, so I made my own
Very funny.
against the karaoke track. But they hated him. They loathed that they were trapped in this pact, not in this pact, but in this sort of tricky deal with him, where they had to sort of buy back their freedom from him, and he got to elicit favors from them. And then they got so mad. They were like, why, we're going to kill you. You did this to us. You totally duped us and stuff. And he said, but only because you wanted things from me.
Yeah, right.
If you didn't want anything, I wouldn't have had any power to broker any deals with you. It's fascinating to me. Humanoids are the ones that really instigate the problems. And all of the Descent into Avernus campaign, yes, it's about devils and even some demons in there, but only because of what one human decided to do 50 years ago and a deal that he made in order to basically just save his own skin and get more power. So
it calls to mind, we talked about Dune earlier, it calls to mind a quote from Frank Herbert talking about writing that book and how he didn't believe in the term that absolute power corrupts absolutely, but rather that absolute power attracted the type of people that were corruptible.
Oh, I like that.
And it calls that to mind for sure. That those creatures are there to attract those types of people. And if those types of people didn't exist, then devils would have a pretty rough time of it.
Yep, absolutely.
And as we find out with our players, they're all very willing to make deals with devils.
Yeah,
moment's notice if they think it'll be helpful. And I find it so weird that my players that I've run games for will be like, yeah, I'll engage in a talking session with the devil and we'll hash something out. But those town guards who caught us doing something illegal, we slaughtered those. You're almost immediately.
Yep.
So
where are your lines drawn? Exactly.
Yeah, right.
So that's why I started putting little hand-drawn pictures of the families of the town guards in all their pockets and little letters that they can find from their children.
I love to do that.
Because they'll inevitably kill them and then search the bodies as if they're playing a video game. We need to loot the body. So you found a picture of a child.
Yeah, there you go. Put that
I
in
do
your
love to have that come back. I do love to have when they make decisions, any players, it's happened to home players and players, whenever there's something they've done that they kind of might think, especially inexperienced gamers might think, especially if they've come from a video game background, that hey, we slaughter all these guys and we get the treasure and we go and that's
the XP line, and that's how we
quest line done. We've got the XP, great.
Yeah.
But it's when you and things like the video game The Witcher series did a great job of this. Is blurring that line of bringing it back and being oh, that thing we did, that group we slaughtered has just opened the floodgates to all this bad, and that's kind of our fault. Or they had, they weren't perhaps as evil as we thought. I had so much fun with the Icewind Dale crew. They went. There's a castle in Icewind Dale that is occupied, and they went in and they tried diplomacy, and it fell apart quite quickly because again they got it in their head that the group that had taken this castle were super, super evil. And spoiler alert, they sort of are. But a beautiful thing happened. The first enemy that sort of threw their sword out and tried to defend the castle that they faced died very, very quickly. They hit it at a level where they were powerful enough to kind of kill these guys pretty quickly. And what that did was the first person that struck them down went, oh, these guys aren't very powerful. Maybe they aren't that bad. And so they sort of bled the line between mechanics and story and were like, wow, I one-shotted this guy who I was expecting to be this evil killer.
Yeah.
And I immediately jumped on that and made sure that every single person they came up against for the rest of that encounter, they had no idea whether they were actually making the right decision. That's a really memorable session for me because by deep into that encounter, they were constantly questioning, are we doing the right thing? Are we the bad guys? Did we just slaughter this castle?
Are we the baddies?
Yeah, for no reason. And I played.
This is the Knights of the Black Sword, right?
Yes,
that
yeah.
Inkir Dinabal. Yeah.
Yeah, and I played on it so hard for so long, and it wasn't until they started taking some prisoners, and one of the prisoners, who was slightly more powerful mechanically, played up on the kind of, oh, please, and was about to be taken prisoner and cast inflict wounds on the person that was about to cuff them.
Ooh.
And so they were
smart.
completely hoodwinked by it. And that it was a really great kind of twist. They went in thinking they were evil, questioned it for the rest of the session up until they played evil back again. And then they suddenly went, oh, finally, phew. We did make the right decision. That was in that vein.
That's a lot of fun. That has like a perfect circle resolution too.
Yeah,
where they're like, oh, thank God, this was one of the moments where we did the right thing.
Yes.
In that tangent, I have to share a very, very near and dear story to my heart, because we gave this player no end of shit for the rest of the campaign. My very high level party, this was several months ago, were on their way to Candlekeep, if you're familiar with the Forgotten Realms setting. And at one point, they got to a point in the road where several men with some arms at their side sort of blocked the road and started talking about collecting a toll. And so immediately my party assumed that they were brigands, right? And one of them, the warlock, jumped out. He had just gotten his new 8th level spell, Maddening Darkness, and he centered it on this group of individuals. And if you know the spell Maddening Darkness, it basically blocks all their vision but creates sounds and images of terror in your mind while you're trapped in, and it deals you like ridiculous, like 12d6 psychic damage. I'm not sure if that's right. Don't quote me on it.
It's a great spell.
It's a fantastic spell, especially against commoners. They weren't bandits. They weren't brigands. They were, in fact, the local town's. I think it was Pride Month. So no, this wasn't this year. This was previous year. Yeah, I think it was Pride Month, and I had just gotten these new tokens that were all sort of like Pride-based characters. They had like little rainbow sashes and stuff, and that's what I was using, and I guess my players just didn't notice. And so they wiped out in one spell something like a dozen commoners that were there to sincerely try and repair the road, and were only carrying weapons because they themselves sometimes get targeted by bandits and wanted to be sure that they're safe. And when the blackness of the spell cleared, there were these faces of twisted and horror and everything else. And when they got to Candlekeep, news reached Candlekeep of all these families wondering what had happened and all these other people, like what had happened to those men, this collective, this like the Betterment for, I don't remember the name of the town, but like let's call it the Betterment for Hasfields Society or whatever, right? And they were and then immediately the rest of the party was like, they started harping on the warlock who did it, and we were of course doing the Aravisa baddies, but not necessarily kind of dealing with the consequences of that, because by then, they were on an epic quest to save the world. The fates of a few commoners didn't really matter that much, and I was always looking for a way to make that sort of come back to them and be like, actually they were integral to the state of the world affairs, and now that they're not there, your mission becomes that much harder, that sort of thing.
I had a similar thing in our home game. After they'd completed the tomb, they had a staff of the sort of core villain of that game, who I won't necessarily spoil here, but they had this staff, and there is an instance in which that staff can attempt to, in a way, corrupt the person that holds it, and can also detonate like a bomb. It can blow up, and it's a series of dice rolls that have to go wrong for that to happen, as well as a conscious decision to use the staff in combat, and that all came to fruition. They were back in Port Nyanzaru, the sort of main city of Chult in that adventure, and they were trying to solve deeper mysteries beyond the Tomb of Annihilation, and they were being attacked by a bone claw under the stewardship of the Red Wizards of Thay. Shout out to the D&D movie. And this one player who had this staff decided to use it. The dice went south, and the staff exploded in the middle of a built-up area.
Is it like a staff of power that causes an astral plane portal to, or not an astral plane portal, but basically deals force damage and can teleport people away and things
Without
like
the
that.
teleporting, yeah, it was just a sort of a straight
Just a
force
massive
explosion.
bomb.
And it went off in the middle of a
Yeesh.
populated area. And of course, it took out a large number of commoners. They ended up defeating the villains they were facing. And then the township started showing back up after the explosion. And the only people left standing, and the only people who were able to witness the encounter, it was that guy. He blew the place up. And my players were so angry at me for so long because they ended up fleeing the town in fear of the repercussions. And they were saying like, oh, you made us flee. And I was like, I really didn't. I was like, at no point did you could have gone and faced the consequences. You could have spoken, tried to convince them of what had happened.
Sure.
You panicked and fled, which in the real world, it happens all the time. You know, people who cause accidents make it way worse for themselves by not just owning up to the accident. And that's exactly what happened. And it still lingers with them today, that explosion.
Good.
And
James, you're bursting at the seams. You're like at the edge of your seat.
Please, I'm excited to hear this.
I had a very similar thing. I gave my players a magic item that absorbed the damage of every spell that was cast against them. And straight up, just absorb the damage.
Ooh.
Every time I rolled for the damage, recorded it. Like even group spell effects like Fireball. If they were hit by a Fireball, record that damage. It didn't do anything to them. The amulet they had absorbed it. And they were like, this is incredible magical item. I'm never taking damage from spells. Well, they didn't know it was a cursed item. And as soon as you took it off, all the damage that had accumulated.
Oh no!
Basically a D&D nuke.
They did not take it off for a very, very long time.
How much damage? Do you remember the number?
It was over 1,000. Like it was in the thousands.
Holy shit!
So what happened was they only hit 2 members of the party, luckily, because they were going to switch. So they were like, I think they were retiring the character. So they were like, well, I'm going to go away. My character's going to retire. They've got some personal stuff they need to do. Here, have this amulet. And took the amulet off.
Oh no!
To pass it over.
I bet you were like.
I was like, yeah. Sitting there trying not to show anything on my face. Like, no, yeah, of course, yeah. It'll be a wonderful gift and it'll be really useful to them. Of course.
Oh man.
Even at half damage, that
would have completely insted.
Just never checking it the entire time for curses or anything, or thinking that there could be any downside to this ridiculously overpowered
item. No damage from spells.
Did it kill the whole? Did you kill the whole party then? The whole party?
Oh no, just the 2 closest. The others had gone off to a different part of the city, but they were in a very big city, so they eliminated like blocks of the city at the same time.
So it expanded outward. So it wasn't just to that one character. It was like a bomb also. No.
Wow.
So
I'm interested to know, obviously as time went on, was there any part of you that was either tempted to try and lead them to the discovery or to kind of bring down what the eventual damage would be? Were you at any point ever tempted, because knowing how much of an impact that was going to have and sitting on that secret for so long?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there were a number of times where they were in combat, and I was like, they're taking a lot of spell damage, and they're getting it more. They're being targeted. Like maybe you'd want to like chuck them your necklace, and just like leaving it and stuff like that. Just like throwaway comments. And obviously, it was such a nice item. They thought that they were like, no, mine, my precious.
This is mine. Screw you.
I'm sharing this. It. Yeah.
Man.
So it was a long game, and I did think about reducing the damage, but it got to such a ridiculous point where I was like, well, what's the point? Yeah. This will just have to play out how it's going to play out.
Yeah.
I had something
so
similar.
That they were like, that I figured they'll enjoy this. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
so insane.
Wow.
Oh,
I had something similar, but it wasn't damage based. It was this NPC that they actually met in Icewind Dale, very, very towards the end of the adventure, and it was kind of like an optional module that I got from somewhere else. And they meet this NPC who's been living in an abandoned city forever, and she is wearing a crown. But should she ever take off the crown, all her years would catch up to her. So it was similar in that, like, if you remove the magic item, everything that you've been sort of delaying up until now will affect you instantly. And they didn't. The one aspect of this, though, that that is part of the item that was cursed was that they couldn't talk about it to anybody else. They couldn't tell them what the crown does. They could talk about the name and they could talk about the regular effect that it makes you immortal, but they can't mention the fact that once it's removed, you die, even though they knew about it. And that's what made it a lot of fun. So they had this NPC who had been living there for thousands of years, and they asked her, how are you still alive in the city of the dead, effectively, in the city that's been entombed for this long? And she said, well, it's this crown. It gives me eternal life. And immediately my players are like, we want this crown. We're going to take this crown. And when they removed it from her, I described it as that scene from the end of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where the man instantly withers after drinking the goblet. Yeah, just and suddenly coming all emaciated and shriveling up into a husk and turning to dust.
Freaked me out so much.
Yeah. Very Dorian Gray-esque sort of thing. But, I love that bit. That's such a great cinematic moment. Thank you, Indiana Jones, for giving us that. But yeah, it's a lot of fun you can have with cursed magic items, man.
And Icewind Dale, Damien, how are you getting on with the folks you're playing with that?
Yeah, great. I've mentioned a couple of kind of key instances already. It's a really fun setting. It's a little more open world than some of the modules, or it can certainly be played that way, given that there are these 10 unique towns that you can deal with and kind of intersperse between them, even before going beyond the borders out into the Dale proper and experiencing all the joys that has. And then, of course, following the main module as well, you could very easily play this one for years and years if you keep funneling your own content into it. I think even the book states that you can just use it as a base for your own stories and ignore the Frost Maiden kind of quest line. It's fun because I got another one I instantly bought. They used a series of words that instantly had my hand on my wallet ready to buy the book when they said that they had been inspired by things like John Carpenter's The Thing, stories like that, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. And
great film.
Yeah, and
I can't watch it. I just can't watch it.
It's great.
I love
getting the feeling you're not into body horror, Rob.
I'm not. I absolutely love the concept. I love the story. I think it's brilliant. But the first time you see that dog, I'm just like,
great dog actor.
I just can't.
Really good dog actor.
I just can't deal with it. It's just too grotesque for me. It's just that it's too like, oh god, yeah. But I love the story. I think the story is brilliant.
Yeah, so that setting, it does play a little bit like that with the paranoia and things. It's great fun to the idea being that winter has continued way past as long as it should have done in the setting.
Yeah.
And so it's not just cold as it would be, but it's even colder and getting perhaps even colder as time goes on. And that way people out in the streets cannot afford to wear anything but full body furs, hoods, masks, the whole deal to stop from
at all times
freezing at all times. So when you're out in the street, at no point can you really tell who anybody is. Save for height, you might be able to pick a child or a halfling or somebody of a more large size, but other than that, there is no way to know who anybody is. And playing that, especially early doors where the adventurers are sort of still unknowns, that's another trope I love to play with, is the idea that townships aren't necessarily going to welcome you as their saviors. Adventurers can be a problem. That they can draw a whole lot of negative attention. They're doing it a lot of times for treasure and quote unquote experience. And some groups will very much ignore the sort of moral compasses of being in a town and playing by those rules, whereas others will play very deeply into them. But even still, I love to play with the idea that the township can be very nervous of a group of very strange-looking individuals who are armed to the teeth, walking around solving problems. It's kind of the Ghostbusters 2-esqueness of it.
Yeah.
Or even the first Ghostbusters, where it's like, are you guys actually causing these problems and just solving them for money?
Yeah, right.
Love that idea.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
I tell you what, Ghostbusters 2, in terms of story structure, one of the best story structure films I've ever seen.
It's a very underrated movie. It gets a lot of hate. It gets a lot of hate, and I have no idea why.
It's the story starts as soon as the opening credits. As soon as it opens, it starts. It's like, there's the slime, there's the baby. This is the situation. Bam, you're in the story straight away. It's a great story. I've actually got Vigo on my wall over here, actually looking at me.
Amazing. Yeah,
I think I posted. I've got some very expensive Japanese import Ghostbuster figures.
Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah, there he is. He's watching you.
Yep. Sorry for the mess.
I need that. Yeah, I've got some very expensive Japanese import 6-scale Ghostbusters that cost a fortune.
Wow.
I think I posted in one of the groups a while back. They're gorgeous.
Oh God, you did, yeah.
Yeah, really beautiful.
Yeah.
And
I haven't seen this film since I was a kid. I got to go back and rewatch
it's
it.
really brave.
Yeah, it's been a while for me.
It's really brave because it came out so long after the original one. They played up on that idea that it had been a long time and the Ghostbusters had been forgotten. Hi everyone, welcome to the Ghostbusters podcast. It was kind of ahead of its time, I think, that they even, like, the kids, they go to the party in a great scene at the beginning where they're like, how many are there? And they're like, about 12. And they're like, and they're playing on the idea that they're going to go to this house full of ghosts, and they walk into the room and they're at a birthday party as like celebrity guests.
It is.
And the kids are all shouting, boo, He-Man, He-Man. And like the idea that the Ghostbusters are a franchise in their own world is fascinating to me. And I wish some of the later sequels had played up on that even more. The idea of like rogue entities kind of trying to set up their own franchises and like people having to follow on the franchise of Ghostbusters in a name that was long since forgotten.
Is there a Ghostbusters RPG? Because I feel like there should be.
At least I don't know of one. And my goodness, would I love there to be one.
Apparently, to buy the intellectual property, it's not actually that expensive. It's probably like one of the cheapest ones you can buy as a publisher.
So what I'm hearing is Rolldark is starting to branch out into some new ventures.
Why the hell not? Do it.
We need Mass Effect as well.
We need a few more patrons.
Please, can somebody do Mass Effect?
Don't talk to me about Mass Effect. We would need another hour on this podcast.
There's a Fallout RPG. There's a Dragon Age RPG. But
there is.
I have Fallout.
How is it not a Mass Effect? There is a conversion for 5e. There's a Mass Effect. There's a website that I looked into a long time ago. But that I could talk about it forever. I really could. It's one of the most well-organized, most beautiful stories in video games ever told. Rob, have you played this series?
No, do you know what? I haven't. I had when I used to live with one of my old pals, my mate Daniel. He bought it for our Xbox that we had in our house, and he played it. And literally, like, we had basically he would work like he'd work like night shifts, and I'd work day shifts. And sometimes, like, we would see each other during that like transition, and he would just like grab me by the shoulders and be like, Rob, you've got to play Mass Effect.
You've got to play Mass Effect.
You've got to play it. And I'd be like, oh, get around to it. He's like, no. I said, no, just play it. I've bought it for our Xbox. You can play it. Play it, please. And I was like, yeah, I'll get around to it. Never played it. I think the problem I've got is that whenever someone like really like tries to like push something on me,
the expectations become too high.
Yeah, then I'm just like, am I actually going to enjoy this? So I had that with Elite Dangerous. My brother was like, you got to play Elite Dangerous. Yeah. Amazing. I played it for about like a week, and I just got bored. I was like, okay, so I've bought some fuel and I'm selling it in this place. I'm selling it there. I was like, this is just. I was like, where's the cheat code? So I want to get some money to like buy some more spaceship. I was like, no. Yeah.
Well, in that case, let me just say, Mass Effect. Check it out if you want. I guess.
It's fine.
Okay, cool. I'll go check it out.
Yeah.
I actually got a really
No,
great
I
piece of world building advice from Casey Hudson, who worked on the original.
Okay.
I didn't speak to him. I'm making it sound like I spoke to him. I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
But,
Had him over for tea.
This guy.
but
Lie through your teeth. Say you were there.
Yeah, exactly.
watching an
check.
interview with him, he talked about setting that world up and starting from scratch with a brand new sci-fi franchise. Starting with the basic questions of, can we travel faster than light? Is there intelligent AI, self-aware AI? Is there time travel? Are there lasers? Because every single time you answer one of those questions, yes or no, it has a massive fundamental impact on how that story will play out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
And ever since when I've been writing campaign ideas, I've done that very same thing. I've gone to the very basic questions of what races are here? Where does it take place? And even the DM's guide does a good job of trying to set you up with this as well, deciding what level of magic there is and how the gods work and stuff. Yeah. But taking that same idea and answering just the very fundamental questions first, because it'll have such a ripple effect. Yep. You add, time travel to any sci-fi series that doesn't have it, Star Wars, for example, and all of a sudden it will massively change how that plays out.
It kind of does have it.
Well, it does.
I bet, yeah.
Does it?
Not fundamentally. It doesn't.
But it's in the lore, in the deep lore.
Yeah.
I'm over Star Wars. I'm so over it now. I just that last the one in the trilogy, the last one they brought out was just an absolute pile of dog shit.
Yeah.
Oh my!
Which one? We don't talk about that either.
The Rise of Skywalker. I was just like, what is this?
What? I don't remember this movie. This wasn't real.
It wasn't great. But I'm excited to see what they do because they're continuing Rey's story, and I really like the character.
Are they really?
I thought Rey was great. Honestly, I really liked 7. I liked the intro.
I quite liked 8, which is a very unpopular opinion, but I really liked
it. Depends. I think a lot of people are coming back to 8 and being like, oh, actually, this was a lot of fun, and it did a couple of weird things, but overall, it was trying to be a very unique story in a very established world, and 7 did have a bit of those problems. The things that they did very well. The new characters, excellent. The things that they recycled, like, oh, this is a Death Star, but it's 30% bigger. And I'm like, oh, come on. But then 8 spent a lot of its energy. This is my personal opinion. At me all you want. Let's go. I can handle it. 8, I think, spent a lot of time trying to show that it didn't need to be that formula. Yeah. And then and in the process, a lot of the story ended up getting a little hurt because it spent too much time trying to break the formula. It didn't have enough time to be what it really needed to be. And then 9 came around and spent all of its time trying to undo 8 scene by scene.
Yeah.
Do you realize that, right? Not like when Rey throws her lightsaber in 9 and Luke catches it. And he says that line that's like, you should be more respectful of a Jedi's weapon. It was a direct counter to the beginning scene of 8. And there's so many examples of this where they were trying to just undo everything that 8 had done, scene by scene, frame by frickin' frame. And then they just went back and barely tacked on old recycled plot from it.
Reactive storytelling.
Very reactive. It was terrible.
Yeah. I think they did a really disservice to Finn's character. I think Finn's character was like they set him up as like the trailer made me think he was a Jedi, that he was hearing the Force, he was hearing the calling to the Force, and that him and Rey were both going to become Jedis, and that Luke Skywalker, like they really missed out on Luke. They should have really thought about his character and been like, right, you got Luke, he was a hero he's a hero of like the rebellion. He was the guy that saved everyone. And then what? He just gives up because he's like, tries to train someone and just fails. It's like, no. They should have had him looking for Force sensitives for the last 30 years and he couldn't find them anywhere. He just couldn't find them, and maybe he lost hope of the Jedi. He's like, am I the only one that could be a Jedi? Great. Like that would have been amazing. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, Finn and Rey are like Force sensitives, and he's got to try and find them. Like suddenly he realizes that there's these two force sensitive people that he needs to fight. Oh, they just
there's a myriad of things.
And then Kylo Ren could have been someone who was like, who doesn't have the force but wants the force really badly, and he's obsessed with Darth Vader, and he's got a lightsaber and he doesn't have the force. And it's like seen to him trying to do the force, and then maybe at the end of the very first episode he tries it, and then like he gets it, and it's like that's the end. Like that would have been brilliant.
Yeah,
like,
that would have been fun.
Oh, it's so good. I spent many a night thinking about this.
I'm sure. I listen. Actually, I would watch that. I would watch that trilogy. But going back to Mass Effect really quick, I have to get this word in. I think when playing the series, and Rob, please, just check it out. I guess whatever.
I will. I will.
Whatever.
I promise I will. If it's on the Steam Deck,
I think something that 2 and by consequence eventually 3 really did really well was it taught me as a DM how to have this epic narrative of this world-threatening problem, and then have these as a sort of background, and still very much an ongoing issue, but also have a lot of attention and focus on player stories. You remember all those individual squad missions you had to do with your character, with your teammates? That taught me, hey, D&D is a game like any other where personal stories are the most important. Everybody wants to play their character. It doesn't really matter what campaign they're signing up for, right? As long as they know that they're going to get a lot of attention to their character. They can be in the Shadowfell, they could be in Waterdeep, they could be in Hell, and it doesn't matter, because they just want their characters' backstories to develop. They want them to do something epic. Maybe they want to go through something tragic and more nuanced, but whatever it is, that's the real meat of any good story, is what the characters are doing. And as DMs, because we're not writing books, we're co-telling adventures, I think it's a big responsibility on all of us to make sure that even with large groups and with a very well-structured module that tells us exactly what the big moments are in each adventure, and you have to hit those, to take some time, take a slice of life to look at the characters and help them progress and help them feel like their stories are being told and being written as we play.
We had a beautiful instance of this that I can add just here, specifically about Avernus, where one of the characters is a bard who has been introducing the group with their own moniker that this one particular bard has invented for the group. And they've been kind of forcing it down the throats of not only the group, but the NPCs that they meet. And they do have a legitimate reason for doing it. And all of the other members of the group have been a little resistant to that name, kind of just sort of like passing it off as a joke initially, and then slowly starting.
What's the name, Damien? Tell us.
It is, shout out, Triscuit's Troop.
Triscuit's Troop.
And that
is the bard named Triscuit?
Triscuit is the bard.
Mm-hmm.
And so over time, the group has become more and more suspicious of this and more kind of frustrated by it. And speaking of Mahadi, they were in the Emporium, having a beautiful meal. And as they were waiting for their meal, this is when the other players decided to bring this up, to start actually saying, hey, it's about time we talked about this name thing. And it's one of those great DM moments where you just sit back and watch the players just open up. And they all had their own legitimate reasons, some of them very personal reasons why they didn't want to be labeled like that, or at least without any consent. It became this incredible kind of back and forth with, at least from my end, the knowledge that both sides of the argument had reasons and merit, and that they really were probably never going to come to a true truce on it. And beautifully, coincidentally enough, the player who's playing Triscuit had to take a break from the next session, and so we prearranged that they would disappear for a short while of time after this session. So after having this beautiful roleplay moment of discussing the merits of this name and why many of them just don't agree with it, and this bard desperately trying to convince them to just keep it up, they headed up to a sort of a mini stage corner of the room and played, and I think they rolled like a 20, rolled like a really high number on their performance check, and played this beautiful melancholy tale. And then instead of returning to the table when the tensions were up here in the group, they turned and left the establishment. And the group had no idea where they were going. and also knew that the player wouldn't be returning for at least a session. And so it was this beautiful sort of amalgamation of story mechanics and real life that
real
played
life
into this
happening.
great moment
insane.
where they just turned and left the establishment when the tensions had hit maximum. It was great, super
that
fun.
sounds so cool.
That's a pretty great story, and also a great story to I think kind of wrap things up there, actually, guys. Yeah. So thank you so much to both my co-hosts, to James and JC, and also of course to our special guest Damien.
Thank you.
Really
It's
great.
been a joy and a pleasure.
Yeah. Really great to have you on the show, man. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, follow, and download. So until next week, dear listeners, cherish every friendship forged, savor the stories you've shared, and let the magic of the tabletop guide you on your own extraordinary quests. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.